Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Super Lunch Roast Podcast, episode number 63. I am Brendan.
And I'm Nate.
Yay.
Ooh.
Dude, it's been so long since we've had like really bad technical issues that I didn't remember what it was like back in the old days. It's such shit.
Uh,
Drives me nuts. All right, let's see. What are we talking about today? We had fight night, Chang Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie versus Dan 50K Ige. And Alexei Oleanik, Sergey Spivak, the old man, still fighting. Marlon Chito Vera fighting on there again. Juliana Rosa. There's lots of knockouts, a lot of stuff to talk about. Go over a little bit of World's Strongest Man. I prefer to cover it in depth once the video comes out because like they don't allow it until next month. It's on a delay.
oh yeah, because the people that organize it are absolutely
They're idiots.
Yeah, it's bad that they live in this century.
Yeah. And then there was one more thing. Oh, we had a couple big boxing events, but really, the biggest event for me was Anderson Silva boxing again. He hasn't fought or boxed in 15 years. All right. With all that out of the way, all right. So, subscribe, all that stuff. If you like what we're doing, please comment below. Interact. Ask questions. Tell me I'm wrong. Go back and forth. I respond to everybody who comments. I'm gonna say a lot of stupid things at some point because I'm talking a lot. So,
we both will.
Get a conversation going so we can talk back and forth. But yeah, and tell your friends. I really like. That's the best way this channel grows is when people like what we're doing and they spread the information out to other people. So I really appreciate it. Okay. All that out of the way, let's talk about some fights.
All right, start at the top. Korean Zombie.
We'll go first. Let me pull up my notes here. Oh, I got them right here. Okay. So, here. First of all, lesson for the night for me, the biggest takeaway I had from the entire fight night.
Let's hear it.
Cheat as much as you fucking want because it gets you the win.
It's almost like we've talked about this before.
Dude, I lost dude, I was jumping out of my chair, like in this chair. I'm like, I just shot it back and jumped up and I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me with this shit. We'll get into each fight when it happened, but it happened in more than one fight and it was egregious. Let's see. Oh, anyway. All right. Main event, Korean Zombie. All right. Chang Sung Jung versus Dan Ige. For me, the biggest takeaway from that fight was Jung's distance control. He was able to keep Ige at the right distance. He kept the pace at his pace, a lot slower than what Ige normally fights at. And, he still, like, Jung still has the power. Ige landed, he still got the chin. Ige landed a lot of big shots. It was just, it was a really good fight. And then, I cannot believe that someone gave Ige, I think he gave him 2 rounds? 3 rounds? I didn't think it was that close at all. I don't think it should have been. Yeah, so total strikes, Jung outlanded him 154 to 137. Significant strikes 92 to 80. He took him down. That was a big thing too. Takedowns, a lot of control. Staying on top, getting his back, that was like huge, right? He took Ige's back in 2 separate rounds, put the body lock on, put the body triangle on, and was able to hold him there and go for submissions. I don't know how hard he was looking for those submissions or if he just wanted the control time, and if it's one of those things where he's looking for the submission, but not in a way where he's gonna gas out his arms. It's more like, I'm putting in 50% of my physical effort to put myself in a position to where if he exposes his neck a lot, I'll sink my arm in, or I'll sink my arm underneath his chin, and we'll get it done. It was a great fight. I think. I mean, I don't know where they want Zombie. They're trying to have him versus. I mean, I see him calling out Holloway. I think it's crap that they gave him Brian Ortega as his last fight anyway. I think that was kind of garbage. I would have rather, seen him versus, Volkanovski before you got the title shot, or and then Yair. Here's what's crazy, is Yair Rodriguez was losing against him. He lost, 24 minutes and 59 seconds of that fight, and then knocked him out with that Hail Mary elbow. And that was a cool moment for Yair, but clearly the inferior fighter,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah, I mean, we saw a great example of that transpire over, 25 minutes essentially. We saw that he was the inferior fighter who didn't get. I don't like saying lucky as in like totally shuffling it off. It's just the odds of that happening again are very small.
It's the difference
So
between overall technical skill and the ability to land, a shot that can put someone out. Like Yair demonstrated he had that ability, even if from a technical standpoint for 24 and a half minutes, he wasn't quite at the same level.
no, he just wasn't. And then when it came to this fight, Dan Ige just looked a step behind, and I know the commentary team was really giving him a lot of credit, for escaping things and getting himself out of bad positions and, landing some big shots in the last round and that kind of stuff. I saw no point in there where I thought, Zombie was in any trouble or he was the inferior fighter in any position that I saw.
Yeah, I thought my biggest takeaway is that he looked like he just matured a lot as a fighter. So, he was known as a bit of a scrapper earlier on in his career, and I think he looked more technical, more proficient, a lot more patient in this fight compared to earlier fights prior to, let's say, like if you look a couple years ago, prior to his doing his mandatory service, he was a little bit more of a scrapper, but I think especially in the past year and a half, 2 years, he's definitely progressed a lot.
I agree. I think he still, when he got cracked, he still kind of went into zombie mode and did what he normally does. And I think that's important to keep that in your back pocket, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Don't abandon what got you to the dance completely. But, getting knocked out by Yair and, he did get finished. He got finished by Jose Aldo, 7 years ago now?
I think.
Yeah, 2013. It was 8 years ago.
Yep.
It's just one of those things where, thank you. He's always got that dog in him, and he can go back to that and fall if he needs to. But like in his last fight, he just got tuned up by Ortega. Ortega really showed that his striking was superior, and it seemed like Zombie just couldn't get off. I don't know if he's just having a bad night or whatever, but.
And Ortega's one of the best in the world. Like, in terms of people who aren't named Max Holloway in that division, like Ortega's still up there.
He's fighting for the title next. They're doing the tough series, and he's fighting for the title. As much as I love fun fights, and I want to see him versus Max Holloway, which is what they're looking for, I would almost prefer to have him wait and fight the winner of Volkanovski versus Brian Ortega. Because if you go by matchup logic, right, where Brian Ortega came off of one loss, right? He came off a loss for the title, gets one win against a contender, and then gets an immediate title shot, right? Well, given that logic, Zombie's in a very similar situation. It's not exactly the same, but given their rankings where Zombie's ranked number 4, Yair's ranked number 3, you got Brian Ortega at 2 and Holloway at 1. So there's like no wiggle room up there. No one's moving, I don't think, after this weekend. So if I was him, I wouldn't mind sitting out another 6 months, 7 months, waiting for the title. That's probably what I would do. I would wait the 6 or 7 months for the title instead of fighting Max Holloway. As much as I would love to see that as a fan, because I also believe Max Holloway's next fight should be for the title. There's no reason for me to have them eliminate one another from a title shot just because the champ is doing the Ultimate Fighter. Your mic is off, silly.
Fine. After what Max Holloway just did to Kelvin Cater, and
Yeah.
And considering how close the Volkanovski fights were and how debatable that can, especially the second
one especially. Yep.
You got to put him in the title shot.
Yeah,
if the title shots are for the best people in the division to take a shot at it, it's still him.
Yeah, a Holloway. But I also want, if you want to get a fresh matchup in there, Korean Zombie. If Volkanovski retains the title, that's a fresh matchup. They've never fought, and I think he's done enough to earn it. I was saying when you're gone that I think, given the logic of Brian Ortega getting his title shot after a loss, then he beats Zombie and gets an immediate title shot. Well, why don't we do that? Zombie lost once to Brian Ortega, who's fighting for the title right now, and then he just beat a guy, so now he can go fight for a title. I don't see a problem with that. Danny Gates ranked number 8. Yeah, before this weekend. Giga Chikadze, on a side note, for the featherweight division, Giga Chikadze was offered a fight with Yair, but Yair is probably going to end up turning that down because Yair was supposed to fight Max Holloway, but that fight got canceled because Holloway got for undisclosed reasons. I mean, it was a fun fight. It was really good. It was a cool way to end the night. The rest of the night was bonkers, minus this. Well, the heavyweight fight had its moments. So the co-main event was Alexei Oleinik versus Sergey Spivak. Oleinik just could never really hold on to Spivak. There was a moment with 30 seconds left in the second round where Oleinik got on top and got in mount and started to put an arm triangle choke on Spivak and got him in a really bad position and put a crank on his neck. And, there just wasn't enough time to work. Mm-hmm. Other than that, I don't. I mean, I think he won with his pressure. He could have won the first round, but the second round I wouldn't have given it to him, and then definitely not the third. So Oleinik, he's old, and I think people stopped underestimating him when they're fighting him. They know that, hey, he's got heavy hands because he throws big looping shots, and if he grabs a hold of you, you're kind of screwed. So, mind your P's and Q's, keep the distance, and if you ever get into a clinch, make sure you've got an exit strategy.
It's not going to be an easy night.
No, and he's really, really good. Anyway, sorry, I forgot to mention this. Happy Father's Day, everybody. If you're listening to this on Monday or Tuesday, happy belated Father's Day if you're listening to this and you're a dad. And if you're not, I don't know, go have a kid. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't do that just to celebrate Father's Day. Don't go have a kid.
Yeah, go say a happy Father's Day to your father, if he's still around or you have contact with him. Anyway, I mean, that's all I got about that one. That fight didn't mean much to me. It's one of those things where if Spivak if he can get like 2 knockout wins after this, like he can get a title shot. I still maintain that 3 good wins in the heavyweight division puts you in title contention, given any day of the
good
year.
Wins.
Yeah, I mean, one knockout win puts you in, like, you could fight a top 15 candidate, right?
Yep.
Or a top 15 contender, and then you knock out a top 15 guy. And then you can get a top 10 or top 5 guy, depending on, who's matched up at that moment. And you knock that person out, or you get an impressive win over them. And now all of a sudden, now you can move to, your title shot. That's all. It's always a possibility.
Oh, yeah.
It's always a possibility in the heavyweight division to get 3 good wins and get a title shot. So.
Yeah, sorry I kept running out, coming back and forth. I'm smoking a leg of lamb right now, so I had to go check on it.
That sounds
really
delicious.
Quick. It's going to be awesome. It's what I'm meal prepping for the week.
Most people are like, yeah, I've got some ground beef. I mean, this is me. I've got ground beef, or I've got some chicken, ground turkey. Maybe fancy people, will get some get some fish, some tilapia, or
Mm-hmm.
like different dishes. And you're like, lamb. I have lamb for the whole week.
Well, like in all fairness, I was getting my regular boring stuff, and I can't remember where was that. I think I was actually at Walmart, and they just had a huge preseason like half lamb leg. Surprisingly, maybe not that surprising because it was Walmart, how cheap it was. But I was just like, screw it. I'll
All
throw it on
right.
the I'll throw it on the Traeger and smoke it. I'm sure it'll come out good.
So that's what's weird is for me, lamb, it always is too soft and tender. Like it's too tender. I don't know. It's just a texture thing. Like I don't hate lamb. Like I'll eat it. It's just if I had to pick my favorite meats, it's not up there with,
It's got
you
to be
know,
cooked well. Like I did lamb steaks last night, and those were freaking awesome. But
that sounds better.
if you don't if you don't land it like right at the right temperature, like if you overcook lamb a little bit, it just gets too chewy and meh.
Hmm.
It's like I said, it's soft and chewy if you overcook it, but if you cook it well, it's delicious.
I'll fly out and grab some.
Oh yeah,
Um,
come on over.
all right. So, banger of a fight at bantamweight. Marlon Vera versus Davy Grant. Woo! This fight was so good. Relatively technical. I know Grant's not the most technical striker, but um, as far as like classic straight down the pipe, ones and twos types of thing. But he has decent footwork and he moves in and he goes low and high really well. He'll go to the body and come up over the top. And yes, he uses big looping punches, but that's beneficial with these small gloves because you can get around them, and catch the ear, the back, like the side of the head. Um, Grant got the better of the exchanges in round one. They went strike for strike almost. I think he was ahead on the striking numbers, and he got the better strikes in round one. So for me, he definitely won round one. That's important. I'll get to it in a second. Grant
Oh
was
yes.
more active in the first round as well. I gave Vera the second round a slight edge, and then I gave Vera the third round as well. That being said, one of the judges gave it 30-26 to Marlon Vera. Who the fuck are you? Get out of here, man.
You're acting like they were paying attention to this fight. Like,
dude, what? Like, I don't think I ever saw Davy Grant. I don't think there was a 10-8 round in there. I know they're like, even if they were more liberal with giving their 10-8s, this is one of those times where I'd be okay with 10-9s in every round. This is like the definition of 10-9s for me. Like this never like one of the other judges gave one round to Grant and he gave a 10-8 to Vera, which is whatever. It's the point is, one, clearly someone wasn't fucking paying attention in the first round, and two of the judges saw it a 10-8 round. The amount of subjectivity in the scoring system in this goddamn sport drives me fucking bananas. I thought Vera looked really good. I think if Grant had gone for more like 1-for-1 with the leg kicks a little bit more, I think he could have done a little bit better. He's doing great with the hooks, landing big shots on Vera. It's just, Vera was just too much for him. And I think Grant also got a little tired in the third round. So, Vera was just doing a little bit better. Mm-hmm. They both had about equal ground control. Not really. I think Grant had more ground control, but Vera did more damage with his ground control. Yeah. It's just the biggest thing for me was like a 30-26. Like, you got to be kidding me. Like, get the out of here.
I mean, this is what happened when judges basically can't get fired, and there is no real consequence for judges. They don't lose any pay. They don't really get any backlash other than this for a bad call like that.
Yeah, it was stupid. I didn't like it. It ruined a good fight for me. All right, so we had Choi Sung-woo versus Juliana Rosa. About a minute and a half into the first round, big left hook from Choi right on the nose of Juliana Rosa and just knocks him down and puts him out. Rosa was kind of trying to get back to his feet, but he was out of it. Not an early stoppage. Mm-hmm. Good knockout for Woo.
Oh yeah,
Sung-woo. Here's one of the fights I had a problem with. Willington Turman versus Bruno Silva. So Bruno Silva is this older guy or whatever, who's a very experienced fighter, and like people were like hype on him, and I don't whatever. Silva grabbed the fence 5 fucking times, and this is different than the other. There's another fight on the card that had this problem, but this was more egregious because each one of those was to defend against a takedown. So he was actively changing the position of the fight by grabbing the fence. He did it 5 times. He got warned twice, and 3 other blatant times the ref just missed it. Then, with 30 seconds left in the round, Silva manages to get on top. So Turman was controlling the fight pretty much, a lot of wrestle heavy, clinch heavy stuff against the fence and trying to get Silva down. But, it's hard to take someone down when they're grabbing the fucking fence and holding onto it. So they get on the ground. Silva ends up on top, and then he gets a knockout from within the guard with 20 seconds left in the first round. And instantly everybody forgets about the fence grabs. Like, we can't, as fans, and I think especially the journalists really need to hold the fighters' feet to the fire for a longer period of time. Like this, you can't just brush it off when something exciting happens anymore. Like you gotta say, hey, he was allowed to get this position because he fucking cheated for 3.5 minutes. That's bullshit.
Well, it's like
yes, he got the win.
It's like the Yoel Romero Tim Kennedy fight.
Yes, that one's one of the most egregious, obviously.
Yes, but it's an example where the tide is turned due to cheating, but because of the outcome, people forget.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it really pisses me off. Like, it's just showing, because all you're doing, we've been over this in many separate conversations. So if you are a longtime listener, hi, Sam, you'll know
Silva also coming off a 2-year suspension coming into this fight.
Yeah. So we've gone over this multiple times in different disciplines, and we've talked about it, but basically how, I've talked about it with John Jones, being rewarded for bad behavior. Mm-hmm. So what that is going to do, we've gone over it as far as gambling and everything else, the addictive nature of certain behaviors. If you reward people, and that's what we're doing, right? Same thing with weight cutting, right? If you don't have to cut those last 5 pounds, then it gives you an advantage in the fight. If you grab the fence and you don't get punished for it, it allows you to win the fight. If you kick someone in the nuts, that happened a lot, poke someone in the eye, and it allows you to win the fight and you don't get penalized for it, guess what? People are just going to keep doing it. Whether it's inadvertent or not, people are just going to continue to do it because it's not costing them their career.
It's a winning strategy. For someone that doesn't want to get taken down, yeah, there seems to be no real consequence to it.
So, and I'm of the mind where if I'm in the 3rd round of a fight that I know I'm getting dominated in, right, and the guy's just taking me down nonstop, and I'm going to lose anyway, I'll grab the fence. You can take the point from me all you want, as long as I can keep it on the feet, I don't care. I would rather cheat and lose. I'm going to lose anyway, so at least I'm going to try and knock him out.
Or consider it this side. So end of the first, let's call it, or even 2nd round. Say you got someone that either took you down the 1st round or was really working hard on a takedown in the 2nd, and you negate all the effort, all the energy they expended into that takedown by grabbing the fence with no real cost to you. How much of that person's game, how much cardio have you now sapped from them? How much energy did that take? That you were able to just, hold on, let me stop you right there. That's a huge, huge change of the fight when you stop someone from that effort. And, now, depending on how that gets reacted to, how the ref responds to that, that has a huge effect on the fight.
Yeah, so as far as I'm concerned, I'm done. I'll say it again when we go over the next one. But I'm done with this whole thing where they get a warning. You were warned before the fight started. You were gone. The rules were explained to you in the dressing room. That was your warning. You don't get warnings anymore. You break the rules, you lose a point. And it's fair. Fair is fair. If the other person does the exact same thing, they also lose a point. right? There's
Here's a good
no
example.
two ways about it.
There's no warnings in the NFL.
No. Oh, hey, we know
There's
you.
no holding warning. There is no offsides warning. There's no pass interference warning. It's you broke a rule, you get the penalty.
I'm trying to think of a good allegory for this. It's difficult because combat sports are they're unique.
Imagine in an NFL game if the first 3 holding calls from Tampa Bay all got warnings, and then the next holding call from the Dolphins got a 10-yard penalty. Like, that's how the UFC rules end up getting applied sometimes.
Yeah, it's just all right. Because this is how this works, right? This isn't even me speculating. This is me like watching enough fights that I can tell you for sure. If they started taking points or changing the position of the fight due to those infractions, immediately after that infraction takes place, then all of a sudden, these fights are going to have a more realistic outcome. Like, that's how the shit's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember, who was it? Was it Stefan Struve versus Big Ben Rothwell, where he got kicked in the nuts like 3 times, and then, not Josh Rosenthal, but Dan Miragliotta goes up to him, and he's like, hey, we took a point from him. You're going to win this fight. You just have to, you just have to finish out the fight. So, first of all, you're not allowed to do that as a ref. You shouldn't be doing that. But anyway, he tells him, like, basically get up and continue. And he gets up and he gets finished, by Ben Rothwell. So Ben Rothwell essentially cheated a bunch of fucking times and diminished his opponent, and his opponent was coaxed into, like, continuing, and then that's a loss on his record. So now when anybody Wikipedia's, there's no asterisk next to that fight. It's just
that says
Ben Rothwell
he got blatantly followed over and over again until he finally lost the fight.
Yeah, it's just pissing me off. So anyway, I have no idea what to think about Bruno Silva. Like, I'd have to watch more of his stuff to see if this is like a recurring thing, if it's a theme of his is just being like a dirty fighter or just blatantly not giving a shit. And as far as Sherman, I feel bad for the dude. He's very young. He looks like he has a lot of skill, and it sucks to lose because someone cheated.
It's disappointing. And the hard part is because of how not well known either of them are, it's not going to get a lot of headway. Like, if this was on the main event,
if this was a title fight,
yeah,
it would be. Well, honestly, you know what? If this was a title fight, I don't think it would change anything. It would be talked about for 5 minutes, if that. But most people are going to just be like, "Oh, wow, what a knockout! Like, look what he did," because everybody just forgets.
Especially like a month after the next UFC event happens, it's forgotten.
It's gone.
Yeah.
All right. Away from the stupid news into some more exciting fights. Matt Brown versus Diego Lima. Lima looked fantastic, dude. He looked good on the outside. Great leg kicks. He had great movement, lots of lateral movement, keeping Brown guessing. Brown did land a couple decent leg kicks of his own and checked one, which looked like he checked one of Lima's, and it looked like Lima hurt himself a little bit, not so much as stop the fight. But in the second round, dude, just a straight right hand from Brown and just catches him right across the nose and like down the chin, and Lima goes face first into the canvas. What a win for a 40-year-old man.
Oh yeah.
It puts him tying for most knockouts in UFC history. Let that sink in for you. All right.
Jeez.
Like, tied for most knockouts in UFC history and third all-time in finishes at welterweight with 14, I think. Because I think that was his 12th knockout, and he has 2 submission wins.
Yeah, this was a fun one for me. That was his season on Ultimate Fighter might still always be like one of my top 3 favorites that I actually watched all the way through.
I didn't watch that one. I only watched one.
It was a good one. I think it was. I want to say it was also the one with CB Dalloway and a couple other people. I can't remember who the coaches were, but yeah, that was like, I want to say it was right after I'd started watching UFC. Like, that's when his season of Ultimate Fighter was on TV. yeah, I don't know. It was just fun to see. Always been a big Matt Brown fan, so it's
I
nice to
like
see
him.
him not on a losing streak.
I like him a lot. I think his story is incredible.
Yeah,
One of redemption and stuff like that. But also, the way he fights, it just like his. I I, I think I've talked about this before. My first UFC, I took a hiatus, right, where I stopped watching UFC. It was right around like near the end of my military career, and then when I became a civilian again, like I just didn't get into it. One, because I didn't have money to. This is before it was on TV every weekend for free. Like the main things I still had to pay for them. So I just wasn't watching them. And I remember the first event that I watched again after starting it was Matt Brown versus Silva. What was his name? The guy who popped Eric Silva. Right. So this is that was his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 when he went on that 7-fight win streak. Eric Silva comes out and just beats the crap out of Matt Brown, hits him in the stomach, and Matt Brown crumples over, and then Matt Brown gets up and just keeps moving forward, and he breaks Silva down. Silva lands another body shot, crumples Brown. It was incredible, and then you just see Brown just overcoming everything and just beating the shit out of Silva. Fantastic fight.
oh yeah.
Since then, it's been a lot of losing and with a couple wins sprinkled in. So, it's nice to see him get a win again. He had that loss earlier this year to Carlos Condit. I don't know what his goal is anymore. He's one of.
He seems just like to fight.
No, I don't know. It seems like he still has title
I don't know. His call out of basically either Nick or Nate Diaz makes me think that he's looking for kind of an end of career payday, something that he can.
That could be true.
Capitalize on, which I wouldn't mind seeing Nick. I don't think Nate is a good move because I think Nate still has enough left in the tank where he does have another shot at a title or something close to it. I don't think he's completely out of the mix there. So, but I don't think Nick is ever challenging for a title again. So him versus Matt Brown, I'd watch that fight. That'd be fun.
And when we talk about Diego Lima, beating Chad Laprise, Court McGee, and Luke Jamu. 2 split decisions in there. It's just he didn't fight at all in 2020, and then he lost to Bilal Muhammad and Matt Brown. They're not bad fighters. It's just he's not his brother.
Who
he's not Douglas.
Also, Matt Brown beat a long time ago.
Lima, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he knocked him out a long time ago. Anyway, a super really fun fight. While it lasted, pretty technical, good back and forth. Yeah, good fight. All right. So the highlight prelim, right? The headliner for the prelims. Alexa Kamer versus Nikolai. Oh my goodness, I pronounce it a bunch of times.
Negurenu?
No.
Negum Urenu?
Mariano. Negu Mariano. That's what it is. Negu Mariano. All right. So, Nikolai Negu Mariano, right? So in the first round, Kamer and Nikolai, they go back and forth, right? They're hitting each other with big, heavy shots. And, Kamer starts to slow down because Negu Mariano is not going anywhere. Then in the second round, I probably would have given that first round to Kamer, but it's close, right? You can give it to either. It doesn't bother me. And then in the second round, Nikolai grabs the fence, right? And he kicks Kamer in the nuts. So, in the third, he kicked him in the nuts. So, first of all, these guys both have incredible chins. Like their Kamer's cardio just gave out first, which is why I think he lost the fight. But at the end of the fight, in the third round, after Nikolai was warned 4 fucking times for fence grabs, and he was so his weren't for stopping takedowns. He was holding Kamer against the fence with his fence grab, so he was holding the fence behind him and pulling his body towards it, trapping Kamer against the fence. I would argue that's not as bad.
Mm-hmm. Which, yeah.
I would argue
maybe not.
it's not
In
as
terms
bad.
of changing the pace of the fight or effect it has on your opponent, yeah, I would argue it's not as bad either.
Right. I would also say that positionally, it's not as bad. It's still bad. I'm not excusing it at all.
Yeah.
It is bad. But regardless if it's bad or not, he broke the rules too many fucking times. He should have had a point deducted in the second round, and he should have had a point deducted in the goddamn third round. That was ridiculous. And with 25 seconds left in the fight, Mike Beltran pulls them off the fence and tells him not to do it again, like he's going to do it in 25 seconds. Like, take the fucking point. And here's the thing: if he took the point, it would have been a split decision. It would have been a split decision draw, because one judge gave it to Kamer, one judge gave it to Nikolai, and then the third judge, or no, maybe both. It would have been a majority draw, because those two. I'd have to go back and look at the scorecards. I forget. I was so mad. But one judge gave it to Kamer, which I didn't have a problem with either. You might be able to give the third round to Kamer as well. I thought he did enough damage moving backwards to justify winning that round. Anyway, dude, it's just, if you can cheat that much and not get penalized for it, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It's like 100%. It's like, oh, I just brought this baseball bat in. I use this example a lot, but this is really fucking bad. Like, if I just bring a baseball bat and just keep hitting the guy with it, and they're like, hey, don't use that anymore. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I keep using it. Like, if you use that baseball bat one more time, I'm going to take a point. All right. And then I just beat the shit out of him until he's dead. And they're like, well, he won the fight. He got a good knockout with that bat. It's like, that's what we're dealing with here, is just blatant cheating, and they're getting away with it. It's fucking stupid and infuriating, because not only are you just like messing with someone's win-loss record, you're taking money from them because they're not getting their win money when they could have by by changing the positions or whatever. You're stacking the deck in your favor when it comes to that, and you're putting yourself in a better position to get a bigger payday down the line, because now you have a win on your record that you can go back to. Like, fuck you.
Especially depending on the name of the person you're fighting. Like it. Yeah, there's a lot to be gained from cheating. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of consequences for the UFC as it stands right now, especially depending on the ref.
I thought Beltran, I think he does a good job normally. It's just, and it wasn't Beltran, I don't think, giving the warnings in the tournament fight. I don't think it was him. Maybe it was. Now I don't remember.
Well, I mean, this is why I stand with shouldn't be warnings.
No.
Yeah.
No. Every single time he grabbed the fence, a point. And then guess what? If he obviously, I think their reactions would be different. They would be much more careful with their fingers. But had he done that, you would have had a 10-4 round. Like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Or a 9-4 round, whatever. Because technically, I guess he didn't win the round. It's inconceivable that we've gone this long in this sport and allowed these fucking idiots to keep doing this stuff. Like, this is unacceptable. You're ruining what could be really fun fights. And the thing is, it doesn't happen that often. Like a fence grab like this. But pokes in the eye, kicks in the junk, nonstop.
You just cannot allow for this much and still call it a professional sport. Like,
no.
It's not. They're not being treated like professionals.
No, you might as well have like grade school dodgeball and be like, oh, well, his foot wasn't that far over the line.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, it bounced off the bleachers and that's technically not the ground, so it still counts as a catch. And like, backyard bullshit rules is what we're dealing with. It's like just making it up as we go, like house rules from Monopoly. So stupid. So that soured my night. Like, that soured my viewing experience, like going through It's stupid. All right.
We can run
Some
through these quick because I did
yeah.
not see most of the prelims.
All right. So strawweight, women's strawweight. I don't know why I say women's. There's only female strawweights. Kanako Murata versus Virna Hoba Joba or Roba. I've heard it pronounced a bunch of different ways, and I don't know if I've ever heard her say it herself. She moves in like Jandy Roba moves in like recklessly sometimes, with her striking, but she has a very aggressive guard, so I don't think she cares to go to the ground. I have one note about this fight afterwards, but Murata got caught in an armbar in the first round, and no one saw it at the time, but her elbow got dislocated, like bent backwards. And in the second round, she fought the entire second round with her arm like barely holding up. She only fought with her right arm. Her left arm was like dangling the whole time.
Damn.
Yeah, and then they stopped the fight after the second round. Here's something I noticed. Asian fighters are at an inherent disadvantage when it comes to eye swelling. Well, they are.
Yeah, I'd buy that.
Because their eyes are just smaller, and this isn't every Asian fighter, but Asian eyes tend to be smaller. It's an evolutionary advantage for, where they lived and their environment and dealing with, a lot of sunlight. Anyway, like it's also a northern thing, like the natives up north, like Inuits and that kind of stuff also have similar traits. But the fact that you have smaller eyes, I mention it because I noticed Murata got like hit once in the face and like the bottom of her eye started to swell up and her eye was going to close anyway. Like that's what I mean is, if you have like I have more almond shaped eyes than some people. Some people have very round eyes and it allows for more space. Like if the bottom of your eye starts to swell up, it might not cover your entire eye. I just thought that was interesting. Like I thought about it before. Like I forget which fight it was, but I remember seeing an Asian fighter getting punched in the face and like his eye just instantly closing and be like, well, that's kind of bullshit.
Yeah. And there's also, it's hard because you also see that with other people too. Like it's not necessarily any one individual because there's individuals where the moment they get punched in their face, basically just blood just swells to their face.
Yeah, there's some people whose skin just doesn't have elasticity.
It just reacts that way. Or
and then when it slips,
like Joanna. Yeah.
Joanna, he gets really bad contusions.
Yep, that sort of thing. Like, shoot, what was it? Like 3 weeks ago, I saw someone get slapped, and it wasn't even like a hard slap. It was like from within, like basically within their shoulder across the face, and dude's entire side of his face just turned red. Just it looked like he'd fell on the pavement.
That's ridiculous.
It's just the way his face reacted. So yeah.
All right, welterweight fight. Chaos Williams versus Matthew Semmelsberger. So Chaos Williams is a guy who's, from what I see, he's very sloppy. He wades in with big shots, but he hits really hard. So I think he's going to be a fun live by the sword, die by the sword type of fighter. Semmelsberger just wasn't active enough. Like he was being really sound defensively. Didn't get caught with too many big shots from Chaos. He landed a lot of his own big shots, and if he had gone to the legs earlier in the fight, I think he could have, not necessarily won, but changed the tide of the fight earlier and made it a little bit closer. I might have given him the third round. Chaos, obviously, the first two. At welterweight, I mean, I think Williams hits really hard, so it's going to be fun to see him move up the ranks and see who eventually puts a stop to his power train. Because I know he did just lose, but it doesn't. I think he's got a future in the division. All right, so we had some sloppy heavyweights. Josh Parisian versus Roque Martinez. So, first of all, Martinez looks gross. Like and they mentioned like, oh man, he's always at a reach disadvantage at heavyweight. Well, he probably wouldn't be at a fucking reach disadvantage if he cut down to welterweight where he belongs. Like, he could do that with just a heavy diet. You don't even have to do a water cut, I bet, and he could make welterweight.
I wish I could remember that there was a fighter in a Bellator fight that I watched who his first fight was at heavyweight, and he was fighting. I actually want to say it was bantamweight. Like, it might have been flyweight. I think it was 145. That was it. Yeah, his first fight was at heavyweight, and then the fight he was on, and it was like 3 years later, was at 145 now. Like he had changed that much of his diet, training, everything to drop down to much closer to where he belonged.
Yeah, and I'm not. Listen, I have said this before. I've become a lot more laissez-faire when it comes to people being overweight when it comes to people living their life. You do what you want. You decide what's best for you. If you really just want to enjoy the fruits of life and live it to its most, and that means just not taking care of yourself and just living for the moment, enjoying things. I got a couple of alcoholics who would say that's not the best thing in the world, but you do you as long as you're not hurting anybody else. But when it comes to being a professional athlete, especially in a sport where weight matters as far as who you're fighting and what division you're in, I would say you could probably take it a little bit more seriously. Especially if you're a smaller individual already, right? If you're a shorter guy, let's not be putting yourself at more of a disadvantage by being overweight. Let's just say what it is, right? You're obese and like you can say whatever you want, like, oh well, he's in good shape because he can, like, nah, I don't care. He's obese. Like, this isn't a guy who's overly muscular and like his BMI is through the roof, but clearly he's got a lot of muscle. No, it's just a guy who's chunky and could lose some weight by cleaning up his diet. He doesn't have to change a training regimen. To stop eating candy as much. Stop eating bullshit fast food. Anyway, I didn't
train
agree.
like an athlete.
Let's see. Lots of good crotch shots in this fight. They went back and forth with crotch shots, which is good. And I don't agree with the decision. I thought Martinez did win the fight, but it didn't mean much to me. A fun lightweight scrap for as long as it lasted. 7 seconds into the first round, Rick Glenn knocks out Silva. He knocked him out multiple times. Like, he put him on the ground once. Silva kind of gets up, hits him on the chin again, falls down, like up and down. There's a lot of knockouts really fast. And actually, the opening fight of the night was very interesting. Casey O'Neill versus Lara Procopio. Lara had really crisp strikes, but O'Neill, she has better kicks, and she was heavy on top in the second round. And then in the third round, she got on top again, got the back again, and put her to sleep. Lara did not submit. That should be a knockout, not a submission. I maintain my opinion on that. But Casey O'Neill is undefeated. She is 7-0 at flyweight, so she's someone to watch out for. That is all the fights. So one more fight that I wanted to talk about is Anderson Silva.
Oh yes, you sent me this one. It was fun to watch.
Anderson Silva coming out of not retirement, but a 15-year hiatus from professional boxing. He had 2 professional boxing fights, boxing matches. His last one was in 2004. And then 15 years later, obviously, he's officially retired from the UFC, right? Like, he left the UFC. I don't know if he's done with MMA per se. Like, he could still, come back and fight or whatever. But now he is does not have a UFC contract. Therefore, he is a free agent. And he fought Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who is... Listen, I know I'm not the biggest boxing fan, but I know he's a huge fucking disappointment, okay? You don't need to tell me. Like, I'm not here to tell you that he's, the second coming of Jesus. I'm here to tell you that he is a professional boxer who is a former champion who has been doing this since he was born, right? His dad is one of, if not the best boxer of all time, and Julio Cesar Chavez. I think what's his dad's record? 190 something and 2.
Something ridiculous like that, yeah.
It's worth looking up, like the 2 seconds. Yeah, they call him senior now, but whatever. Oh, sorry. My bad. 107 wins, 86 by KO, and he lost 6 times. Right?
Jeez.
So, yeah, he's pretty good.
Just a little bit.
His last fight was in 2005. Holy crap. Dude, he went 89 0-1. And then he lost to Frankie Randall, who he comes back and beats, and then beats Meldrick Taylor, Tony Lopez, Giovanni Parisi. I know some of these guys. Anyway, his first professional fight was in February of 1980, and his last fight was in 2005. So, yeah, long career. I bring all that up because his son has been fighting since he was born, right? He's been practicing boxing. He's got the size. He's got the punching power. He's got the training. He's got the boxing skill. But he sucks because he has no cardio. He misses weight, which he did for this fight. Did you hear his excuse?
No, I didn't hear the excuse.
So it was 82 kilograms or whatever it was. I forget what it. Anyway, his excuse was, well, I thought the weight limit was 185 because that's what Anderson Silva fought at in the UFC. Shut the fuck up. No, you did not, you idiot.
With the team that dude has to have around him of absolute professionals, there's no excuse for that.
No.
Whatsoever. You don't not know what weight class you're fighting in when you're going through your weight cut in your preparation.
Yeah, and so because of that, he had to forfeit $100,000. Anderson Silva made $100,000 extra dollars because this dude missed weight.
That dude forfeited more than maybe the entire purse of the UFC main card that we saw.
Except for the
like if you took the winnings
prelims for sure. I would say the prelims for sure.
If you took the winnings of everyone that won on the main card, it might not add up to that.
Nah, Matt Brown.
Okay, yeah. That
Chen Sung Jung probably makes a decent amount. The rest of the guys, I would agree with you.
On a fight night, I don't know.
Well, I would say Matt. Well, because your pay doesn't change unless you're getting pay-per-view numbers, which they don't really do that anymore anyway. I would say Matt Brown. His disclosed pay was probably 25 and 25 or something like that, or 40 and 40. So just that alone, and everybody else is even. Let's say they're all 5 and 5, and then Chen Sun Jung. Let's say he's 25 and 5. Like I think, but for sure the prelims, yeah, I would say he might
more than probably, the whole prelims.
All of them, every fighter in the prelims. So if you watch this fight, it was an 8-round box official. This was an 8-round professional boxing match, right? With a professional boxer who has boxed since he was a little kid, and I think he's 30 years old. I believe 36 or 35 or something like that. And you've got Anderson Silva, who is in his 40s, 46 years old. He comes out and he clowns Chavez. Like he had fun. In the 3rd round, he put himself back in the corner like he did against Stephan Bonner, where he put himself against the cage. You know, he's rolling with punches. He's waving.
He was fucking around in there the way that he used to. And even the commentators were like enjoying it. They were getting into it, talking about how much fun it looked like he was having.
Well, that was one of the most incredible. I was going to bring that up next. One of the most incredible things for me was just the respect and the admiration of the announcing team for Anderson Silva. By the way, they fought in Mexico.
Where
that's where Chavez.
It is hard to put into words how famous he is. Yeah.
Like, well, Chavez Senior, obviously,
yes,
that's what we're talking about here. Junior's still a clown.
I mean, it's like Manny Pacquiao's son fighting in the Philippines.
Yeah, I would say exactly like that. Yes.
Yeah.
For me, watching this fight, that I found out this was happening earlier this week. So this puts in perspective, because I didn't talk about it last week. But the boxing event between who boxed the week before? Because I didn't talk about Logan Paul versus Mayweather. Yeah. I didn't talk about that because, like, my opinion is I thought Logan Paul did pretty good. I thought Mayweather looks old, and I am impressed that, enough people want to watch it where they can make that amount of money.
To where it got more pay-per-view buys than Alessandra,
Oh yeah,
than Izzy Vinatore.
Izzy
Yeah.
Izzy got 300 or um ah, Izzy versus Marvin got the UFC 263. I think it was 600,000 buys. But
Hmm.
that's the new pay-per-view model. It's not the same as it used to be. The market's very saturated, and it happened on the same night, which, um, yeah, I would argue not the best plan for either businesses. But anyway, um, dude? Oh,
So
first, we didn't talk about this yet. So for 8 rounds, I would argue 6 of those rounds clearly for Anderson Silva. 6 rounds. 2 rounds, one of them for sure for Chavez. I think it was the second round was for sure for Chavez. And there was another round in there. It was like 5 where it was pretty even. So you want to give it to Chavez. I'm not gonna fight you on it. So
mhm.
6 out of those 8 rounds went to Anderson Silva. And one of the judges had it for Chavez. Gave him it, flipped the score. You have got to be kidding me. Dude, if Anderson Silva wasn't the striking god that he is, they
He would
would
not have.
have
Yeah,
screwed him so hard.
he got lucky. He got lucky with how lopsided he made the fight to where they couldn't feasibly
Dude,
justify giving it to Chavez.
he controlled the like the dirty boxing range when they were head to head, the uppercuts and stuff. Like, yeah, he was getting hit a little bit, but he controlled it. He was very defensive. At range, he was the better guy at range, leaping in and dodging and going in. He was in the middle distance. I felt that was where Chavez was kind of doing his work because he was going to the body really well. But even with that, like, Silva just was able to do more. He was in control the entire time. I never felt like he was losing that fight. How incredible is it that someone of his stature, right, status in MMA history can just go at 46 years old and outbox a boxer for 8 straight rounds?
No kidding. Oh, now you know what Silva can do if he really wants a payday.
Well, no, hold
There,
on.
well,
Go ahead.
there,
Go ahead.
because there is a boxer in his weight class
Roy
who
Jones.
could deliver. No, I was going to say could deliver him a $10 million payday.
A boxer in his weight class. It's on the 180s. Logan Paul?
I was going to say Jake Paul.
No, Jake's a small one.
I think Jake clocks in at 190.
Jake small.
Hold on, I'm looking it up.
Logan
At the
Paul's
Ben
bigger.
Askren fight, Jake weighed in at 190.
Baloney.
Yep, Ben Askren weighed in at 191. Jake weighed in at 190 and a half.
Okay, I'm telling you, Logan's the bigger one.
I'm sure he is, but I would say Jake is on a trajectory to where he's trying to
Logan
fight
Paul
people
officially
that can.
weighed in at 189.5 against Floyd Mayweather.
Then Jake Paul is bigger.
He was bigger for that fight, I guess. But
Yep.
no, he's physically larger. Like, he's taller, he has more muscle. He's the bigger brother. He's also older.
I'm just saying.
Jake Paul is not. That's ridiculous. Whatever. Anyway, they could both fight. They could both fight him, and Anderson Silva could make a ton of money.
So if Jake Paul beats Tyron Woodley, I would say Jake Paul Anderson Silva is that would be a fun fight, especially since Anderson's just coming off of a win in the boxing world.
So what they want to do, Jake Paul, who's fighting Tyron Woodley, which I think is going to be fun because Tyron Woodley's, as much as people want Tyron Woodley to go in there and knock him out, go back and watch Woodley's fights, guys. He is not an active striker. He has one punch knockout power, and he's a counter striker who likes to sit on the fence. All right. It's
And
not.
it's also been a while since
Well,
he's
I
not
thought
a
his last fight he looked really good. I think
he's not a consistent performer.
absolutely not. No, he
Yeah.
never has been.
Yeah, but like he's not someone that is going to go in there and you're going to get the same you're not guaranteed a highlight reel Tyler Woodley. And when he's not a highlight reel, it's not a good fight for him.
No, he comes out flat and he looks gross.
And sometimes doesn't even want to be in there. Like that oof.
So because of that, right? I think it's going to be. There's a good chance that it can be interesting, right? It's not going to just be him going in there and knocking out Jake Paul. Um, Obviously, I'm hoping for that. I would love to see Jake Paul get knocked out by an actual boxer, by an actual striker. Someone who can actually throw a punch. That would be interesting. I'm not getting my hopes up, nor do I. I don't really care about the outcome that much. People want to talk about whatever they want. I can make an argument at the end of this, but anyway. So Jake wants Anderson Silva to fight Roy Jones on the same card as him and Woodley. So you're not too far off. So if they both got wins, he could go up and fight Jake Paul and make a payday or whatever.
Yep, fight one of the greatest mixed martial artists of all times, known for his striking, coming off 2 boxing wins. Like that's a smart move for them.
Look, he was supposed to fight Roy Jones back in their heyday when they were both.
I remember. Like,
yeah, when they were both big, that was the thing.
Yeah. So yeah,
that's not the bad idea. I like that.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, like for those out there who, because I was following Twitter when it came to Anderson Silva, and you saw all the people instantly there were some people who were just like, wow, really cool that he can do that, and then there were some people like, Chavez sucks, he's terrible, this isn't a good example, put him in there with somebody else. Like, guys, what happened is we had a lazy boxer versus a motivated MMA fighter is what we had, and a guy who can also strike. So when they go out there and like, dude, an MMA fighter got knocked out by a YouTuber, like, yes, one MMA fighter got knocked out by a guy who has been practicing boxing for 3 years.
And hold on.
Sorry.
As much as Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. is not his father, he is by no means like some washed up losing record boxer. Like, yeah, I'm sure we know how boxers pad their records at the beginning of their career to set themselves up. He still has 52 wins, 6 losses.
Yeah, he has a decent record. He was the champ.
Yeah, like this isn't, it's not like he fought. It's not like he is a complete shadow of his father to where he doesn't belong to be like. It's not like he doesn't belong in the ring. He has a good boxing career. It's just he happens to be the son of one of the best boxers of all times.
Dude, he was the middleweight champ, the WC middleweight champ. This was 12 years ago, but he was that's when
and
he
he's
first
also
got
still only 35. So he had a 10-year age advantage.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also cool to see on his record, like, all these boxers and like all this stuff. And at the very last one is Anderson Silva. It's so crazy. Excellent win for Anderson. I wasn't the biggest fan of his when he first came out because of what he did to Rich Franklin, and I was a huge Rich Franklin fan. But Anderson Silva grew on me very quickly. I've liked him for a very long time. I think what he did last night was incredible, and
he just did something for the sport of MMA that every other MMA fighter that's tried to do it has failed to do.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing him come out and
he walked into the boxing ring and beat an accomplished boxer.
Yeah, and this is the thing is, if your only experience from MMA fighters is McGregor versus Mayweather or Ben Askren versus Jake Paul, I got news for you guys. The reason those guys were picked is because the boxer knew that they could get a win, right?
Yeah.
You know why?
The MMA fighter knew they could get a payday.
Do you know why Mayweather knew he could beat McGregor? Because McGregor has cardio issues, and he knew that in the later rounds, McGregor wouldn't be able to keep up. And that's exactly what happened. Do you know why why Jake Paul picked Ben Askren, because Ben Askren sucks. He can't throw a punch to save his life. Obviously, he as far as striking goes, he sucks. He's an excellent MMA fighter, especially in his prime. But he's not in his prime. He's retired. He came off a double hip surgery, and he was on the couch for 16 months. And they're like, "Hey, you want to box Jake Paul?" And he was like, "All right."
Yep.
And then he's laughing all the way to the bank. That's why those two were picked. Anderson Silva is a retired dude. Go look at Anderson Silva's record. I'll tell you right now, in the last 5-6 years, let's put this in perspective for people. Since 2013, he's only had one win in MMA.
Which is crazy to think about.
It's crazy, but it's also, you can realize he's not what he once was.
Yep.
Even in striking, because he got knocked out by Uriah Hall. He lost to Israel Adesanya. He got beat by Jared Cannonier. That was a kick thing. He lost to Michael Bisping back in the day, back in 2016. So you want to talk about any of this stuff, or Nick Diaz. Bring any one of those guys over to boxing, and they're going to have success. Maybe not so much, maybe not Uriah Hall, but I wouldn't be surprised if he had success with his hands. Israel Adesanya has a boxing record. I think he's 5-1.
Nick or Nate Diaz, obviously.
Excellent boxers. Great cardio. Michael Bisping, that mainly a boxer.
If he had his eye, I think it would be fun, but yeah, I don't want to see that now.
Oh, absolutely not. But yeah, his only win in the past 8 years was Derek Brunson. So my point in bringing that up is, people talking about, oh, well, this is Anderson Silva, one of the best of all time. He's far past his prime, guys.
Yeah.
His prime was 10 years ago.
His prime
12
ended,
years ago.
Yeah.
15
his
years
prime
ago.
ended in 2013.
His prime ended when Chavez was still the champ. Right? And so if you want to put that in perspective, Chavez was a champ in 2015. He got the belt back. And he has one win since then in MMA, and it was a kind of a questionable one against Derek Brunson.
Yep.
So you want to talk about oh, hey, Chavez sucks, this and that. Yeah, guess what? Anderson Silva isn't at the top of his game either. So I would say it's a
no one's going to want to
1-for-1.
say it, but Anderson also kind of sucks.
Hey,
okay, which is not fair to say when you consider his legacy, but at this point in his MMA career,
that's fair. That's fair. What you're saying is, compared to his contemporaries in the challenging, as far as title contention and challengers in the UFC, he sucks. Right? Yeah. He compared to them, compared to maybe some of the guys on the lower end of the spectrum, people just getting into the UFC, I definitely think he could still get wins. So, but let's put that in boxing perspective for Chavez. Again, I'm not the biggest boxing fan, have not followed his entire career, but from what I saw, I bet you if you threw some freaking journeyman boxers in there, Chavez could still finish him, right? Chavez could still outwork him. Okay, so I think this was a very good matchup. Age discrepancy notwithstanding, I don't care about that. It's not an excuse for Anderson. If anything, it just shows how good he is. His longevity of his career, despite being a striker. I think that's incredible. What's cool about it is I think this is a very fair matchup as far as contemporary skill sets. When they were still relevant and dominant in their own sports, respectively. So if you look at that and you look at what just transpired, I think it's fair to say at this point, even for boxing fans, that boxing is the inferior martial art. Anybody, and I've known that. I've known that for 20 years. But for those out there who say, oh, boxers could whoop any MMA fighter in the streets and all that stuff, I don't know how that's still an argument, but I see it.
Boxing is a sport.
Absolutely. It's a skill set.
It is more sport than it is a fight when you're comparing it to MMA.
Yeah, that's another pet peeve of mine is when they call boxers fighters. Back in the day, that might have counted, but we know what a fighter is now.
Yeah, when you consider how many ways that you can essentially press pause on a boxing match, which does not exist in MMA.
Yeah, the grappling situation. That's still
Yeah.
fighting, guys. You can't
Yeah.
stop.
You can't just hug it. You can't just hug to stop a fight. It's like, oh no, hold on. I'm gonna make you stop punching me really quick, and then have the ref come and break us up like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this isn't to say that every striker in MMA could beat every boxer.
Also, try using boxing defense with MMA gloves on.
Doesn't work.
Yeah,
Some of it does. Like guarding
yeah.
your chin. Guarding your chin works.
Head movement can work.
Yes.
You know,
Especially in
punches
the
aren't going to
when you stay
glance
in the
off the
pocket.
same way if you're used
Nope.
to them. Yeah, it's different. It's still, a fighting sport, but it's more sport than fighting in comparison to MMA.
I mean, a great example is like look at all the kickboxers who came into MMA, right? It's very like Israel Adesanya is the exception that proves the rule as far as I'm concerned, because if you look at kickboxers who come into MMA, yes, some of them can have success,
Mm-hmm.
but
I mean, without a doubt, wrestling is definitely the
wrestling is
yeah.
If you want to pick one martial art to rule all martial arts, right? If you took average Joe number 1 and average Joe number 2, gave them the exact same amount of time to train, right? And they had the same physical abilities and the same training ability, all that stuff, right? All things being equal, and you had to pick if you trained one of them in wrestling and then one of them in any other martial art, maybe judo could be close because there's submissions in there as well. But I would say wrestling, especially like Greco-Roman or folk style, freestyle, those kinds of things. I think if you train one in wrestling and the other guy in any other martial art, I think the wrestler wins more often than not.
Yep.
I think that's what we've learned.
Yeah,
right?
I think anyone that's looking at essentially the data of MMA and especially modern MMA, it's pretty obvious what the easiest base is to translate or transition into the sport from.
Yeah.
Because you don't even have to be an incredible wrestler in comparison to your peers to make a very rock solid transition into MMA.
Yeah, and just because
you can be a halfway decent wrestler.
Yes.
And have that translate into being a great MMA fighter.
Yeah, Kamaru Usman was not a D1 wrestler. He's a D2 wrestler, but he was one of those like top tier D2 wrestlers who was who liked to tech everybody. He's constantly taking them down, letting them back up, taking down, letting them back up, that kind of thing, and winning on points instead of
and guess what that translates well into.
Exactly. That's the I say pin wrestling, as cool as it is in wrestling, doesn't translate as well. Whereas like teching your opponent, getting I should really look this up before I keep saying it, but I think it's 15 points. But teching your opponent is like a technical pin, I think is a better, like if that's your style, I think that translates better. And and same thing with Ben Askren, like the funky style of wrestling where he's just like a wet noodle out there. Just like there's certain things that translate really well into MMA. All right. I mean, that's all I got. Unless, you want to talk about World's Strongest Man a little bit?
I mean, if you want to wait till it comes out, we can definitely wait till it comes out.
We know who won.
Yeah, it just finished up today, and
yeah,
we'll wait till it comes out so people can see it. So you don't just have to rely on voice recaps or YouTube recaps from other people with almost no video whatsoever, other than following some of the competitors and some of the background video that they've been posting. But yeah, it comes out July 3rd, I want to say, that weekend on CBS.
Yes. Yeah, for us.
Yep.
Canada's TSN. Those are the only two that I know.
Yeah. Because World's Strongest Man has not caught up to this century and still try and broadcast it live.
I don't understand. Like, I understand. I partly understand why they do it.
Goddamn deal with Amazon and post it live every single day.
Sure, but I understand from their perspective of the old farts running it. You want to edit it down to like just the interesting stuff for most people. Like to put it on primetime television, or not primetime, but the major networks. You got to edit out a lot of the fat. because I don't know if you've ever been to a strength competition. It's pretty boring. And then like you want to see the highlight. It's essentially like a highlight reel. Like the competitor goes up and he goes. Like if you watch it live, there's lots of downtime in between and like, hemming and hawing, and like especially in the early heats, like it's way too many competitors to follow.
I mean, the Olympics figures it out.
No, they don't. They're so bad at it, and they're also on a delay. Like they have gotten worse with the amount of technology. Yeah, because
maybe
now
I'm not thinking about it.
No. Remember the last one, like you're like, I want to watch this sport. I'm like, okay, well, that's on tape delay, but it's only on at 2 a.m. and you have to watch it on this channel. It's like I don't know if it, like, I guess I'm not old enough to remember how it used to be. I'm guessing they televised less before, so I guess technically you're right. It is a little bit better now because I can watch more stuff. But what the real way to do it is, I mean, even if it's subscription based or whatever, World's Strongest Man cannot do that, by the way. They have to make it free. Like you have to have a deal with like an already existing subscription service because no one's paying for that shit. I'll tell you, strength sports are not that popular yet. Never have been. I don't know if they ever will be.
I mean, there's a model for it because ultimately clips of unbelievable feats of strength do go viral. Like,
yes,
it is a competition where it's set up for something viral to happen damn near every single year, whether it be a stone off or the different types of events that they're setting up, the creativity that they bring to it for, the different medleys. Like those are very good recipes for going viral, but then you lock down all possible footage. So it's like impossible to actually get those events to go viral when they need to go viral at the time it happens. Every time a world record is broken, it should be all over the internet as a clip from World's Strongest Man.
I think there's a way to do it. I really do.
Yes.
And I think the way to do it is to hop on I think Amazon is perfect. I think they have an eclectic
someone that's got the
enough
infrastructure to do the edits and post. And
sure. Well, I mean, they could always do that and still broadcast that, but as far as like showing the live event, they could always throw the bulk footage onto Amazon and you could watch it live if you want. They already do NFL games on Amazon. I don't know if they still do on Thursday Night Football. Is that still on Amazon?
I can't remember. Does Amazon do CrossFit games? Who does that?
Nobody anymore. Nobody wants to watch that shit.
I was trying to think, like, that's probably the closest comparable thing.
So, well, the CrossFit games are worse because you have like 50 competitors doing the same thing at the same time. Yeah. It's it's not digestible material. Like you cannot tell me that that's going to be interesting how they do that. They did it wrong. If they wanted to make their sport, I don't want to go off on this huge tangent. CrossFit as a method of health and wellness is perfectly fine when done how a CrossFit athlete would do it, right? You train the proper fundamental lifts, you do some Olympic lifting, you learn how to do these movements properly. You don't constantly do things to failure, and you're not putting yourself in any position to be injured frequently. If you train how they first of all, the games are stupid. The lifts that they're doing, it's all dumb stuff. Second of all, if you train like that and do those things all the time, you're going to be injured and you're not going to lose weight or get into shape. You're just not going to. That's not how that works. Ask any athlete what they do to get into shape or stay in athletic shape. It's not that shit. Nobody does. Yep. And then the last thing I'll say about CrossFit is it's owned by an incompetent idiot who is so smug and arrogant about his sport that he refuses to change anything except letting men compete in the women's division now. That's what they allowed this past year.
Alrighty.
Yeah. CrossFit doesn't, I used to just say CrossFit sucks, and I don't want to shit on anybody's passion. I really mean it. Like if you're doing it and it's helping you get in better shape and making you a healthier person and it's something that you enjoy, I'm not gonna tell you not to do it. I will say that the CrossFit games and the fundamental principles of CrossFit from the originator of CrossFit is fucking stupid. That guy's an asshole. You shouldn't follow anything he says.
I agree with both sides of that. Yeah, I mean, my feeling on CrossFit is essentially if it works for you, there are certain principles and aspects of it that are going to lead to a certain level of progress that you will do if you're doing it consistently and, with the right amount of effort and right programming. But you're kind of going to stall out on multiple sides of it. Like, it's not going to make you a great endurance athlete, and it's not going to make you a great strength athlete. If you're looking for a little bit of a combination of both, it can do it. And I think the team aspect is probably one of the strongest.
That's the fun stuff.
I think that's one of the strongest drivers of the effectiveness in terms of it gets people coming back in a consistent manner because of that team aspect. So, because ultimately consistency is one of the most important aspects of any programming whatsoever. It doesn't matter if you want to run a marathon, power lift, whatever it may be, body build. If you're just trying to lose weight, you need consistency. And that team aspect of CrossFit helps build the consistency enough to where people see better results than if they used to just go do the elliptical at the gym. Like, yeah. Because you probably weren't doing it with enough consistency, even beginning.
Well, yeah, because if you don't get the results, like clearly you're not being consistent or you're not doing it hard enough. So here's the last thing I'll say on this. If you want a quick way to discern who you're hanging out with, and filter out unnecessary or overly negative people who don't have a sense of humor and can't take a joke, casually mention these things around the gym. One of them that I found works is calling the CrossFit Games world's most medium man. That's the reaction I was looking for. Right. It's like,
oh, that's a great decision.
See, that's what I'm saying. So I've had people who are like, oh yeah, haha. Like it's not a gut buster. I get that. Yeah. It's like a half insult and it's kind of funny. It's whatever. But I had people with visceral negative reactions like, you never seen a world's strongest man athlete go out there and run for 2 miles with a sack on his back filled with weight. And I'm like, no, because that's fucking stupid.
I'm actually pretty sure I've seen a video online of Brian Shaw breaking a world record for the rower the first time he got out one.
I mention that to them all the time. Yeah, never done a rowing machine, and he gets on there and broke the fucking machine.
Annihilated the world record by a lot.
Yes.
It was something ridiculous.
So, and then what is it? I think when it was Eddie Hall. He did the snatch.
That's right.
He
broke was it a 1 minute snatch or something? Or...
Yeah, but he had his form was just garbage. He's just lifting it over his head like it weighs nothing, and
I don't think he was even moving his torso. I think it was almost just his arms.
No, he was just doing an upright, almost like a not even
upright row into a press.
Just he was just flinging it over his head, dude.
You know the cartoon of someone just taking the weight and then lifting it out in front of them and then over their head?
What he did. And so if you ever want to realize how stupid that sport is, compare it. Watch a World's Strongest Man athlete compete in any one of those events. And then you realize each one of these events, given that event, is stupid because there's Olympic lifts done by Olympic lifters, which are incredible, by the way. There are guys who can lift 3 times their body weight over their head in a snatch. I think it's 3 times. It's fucking incredible to watch. The amount of precision and timing that these guys need to hit the perfect lift to set these world records. It's astounding. It's fun to watch. It's masterful. It's something that I love to see. If you want to see strength athletes, people throwing heavy things, moving heavy stuff, old time strongman-y stuff, like circus dumbbells, big logs, things like that. You have World's Strongest Man, and you can see some of the strongest guys in the world doing extreme feats of strength and tasks over a 1 week period. And then lastly, if you want pure power, athletes like that for deadlifts, squats, and bench press stuff, we have a sport for that. It's called powerlifting. And again, incredible the amount of dedication and time it takes to get to the level where you can squat 1,000 pounds deadlift 1,000 pounds or bench 550, like 600 pounds. It's incredible to watch. Those things are all incredible. Doing half of each one of those is not. It's okay for health and wellness, and it's impressive that you can do those things and you're well-rounded, but you're not an athlete when it comes to competing in anything. It's not a fucking sport. Please stop doing it. And a lot of people agree with me because nobody watches it anymore.
Yep.
All right. Thank you all for sitting through my rant. I mean, you got anything else UFC related, fighting related?
No,
World's Strongest Man?
I think we covered just about everything.
Cool. All right. Thank you guys so much for making it all the way through again. I really appreciate y'all.
Don't
Make
forget
sure
to like,
if you
subscribe.
Yep. Like and subscribe and do all those fun things. Tell your friends. Please comment below. I mentioned it at the top, but I really mean it. Like, I do respond to everybody. Every comment that someone gets, if you're looking for a response, I always respond. Please, if I said something wrong, if I pronounce a name incorrectly, please let me know how to pronounce it. I do take that seriously. I would like to pronounce people's names correctly. If I misquoted a stat, tell me that, because I would like to know for future reference that I said it wrong. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
All right.
I got nothing. Have a good day, everybody. Yeah. Enjoy your life. Go do fun things.
There's a fun fight next weekend. Cyril Gane versus Alexander Volkov. Gane still undefeated, so it's going to be fun. I might break it down later this week. We might go back, but this one might not. I don't think it's popular enough. All right. Love y'all. Thank you so much.